Hi, it's me again. And now I've talked a lot about the BBC wasting money all over the shop, and it's one of my specialities on this channel. The EastEnders set, for instance, what would that end up at? Over 80 million quid. You had the new thing they're building in Birmingham. We don't know the value for that yet, but that's going to be 80 to 100 million quid, right? The booze expenses the BBC has, I could sit here all day and complain to you about the BBC wasting money, but there is another one that's not talked about enough, and I spotted a story about it. I thought it was something we could just talk about because it's a huge waste of money for the BBC for one reason and one reason only. Have a look. BBC World Service future uncertain as funding inquiry launches. A funding inquiry into the World Service. Maybe during the war, you know, back then, back when everything was in black and white, the World Service was a useful tool. But why do we need it now? It's costing the BBC around 300 million quid a year. That's very similar to the black hole they have in their finances. Why are they funding it? But some of the stats for it, shocking. Look at this, look. The news service currently broadcasts in more than 40 languages in countries across Latin America, Asia, Africa, Europe, and the Middle East. Last month, BBC Director General Tim Davies said the World Service is uniquely valuable and globally important. Globally important to the 3 people that listen to it, or globally important for another reason that we'll come to in a minute. But the main point there I want you to talk about, 40 languages in countries across the world. 40 languages. They broadcast in 40 languages. Imagine we don't have to imagine the costs involved in that, do we? Because we know the World Service costs about £300 million a year. Why is the poor British householder being charged £169.50 a year for a TV licence fee so that we can broadcast government propaganda in 40 languages all around the world? I'm just going to cut in. I had already finished filming this and I was going through some of my bookmarks and I saw this bloody one I completely forgot about. Look, you ready? World Service presents. BBC World Service reveals for the first time that 310 of its journalists are working in exile. So now we're broadcasting in 40 languages across the world. And God knows how many more journalists there are, but 310 of them can't even work in the places they're supposed to be working. 310 of them. Journalists are facing increasing pressure, including state interference, harassment and criminal charges, which are consistently used to attempt to undermine their work. Staff at BBC News Persian have been in exile for over a decade and continue to face harassment and persecution. Last month, the BBC World Service filed an urgent appeal to the UN, blah, blah, blah. They're not in Russia, they're not... Just, why do we need them then? Why can't they just be normal journalists that are based out of London that report on Persian things or Middle Eastern things or Russian things? Do they still need the specialist journalists, 310 of them working for the World Service, that can't even be in the place they're supposed to be reporting on? Back to what I was talking about a minute ago. Because it's propaganda. It's like Tim Davies just said there, look, the World Service is uniquely valuable and globally important. The House of Commons International Development Committee has called for inquiry, which will focus on the BBC's influence as a soft power and look to establish whether increased government support is needed. If you want your soft power, because Lucy Fraser's been banging on about that as well. She talked about that in a TV licence fee review. And this is what she wants from the TV licence fee. Look, deliver on the government's commitment to creative excellence, supporting and promoting the very top of our cultural and creative output to enhance soft power and boost exports. All right, I'm all for boosting exports. Fine. Yeah, okay, we need to boost, not that we make anything in this country to export most of the time, but yes, we do need to boost exports. But they keep saying that phrase, and I've only ever heard this phrase talked about with regards to the BBC and the government. Soft power. They keep saying it over and over again. It's their propaganda tool. So if the House of Commons International Development Committee wants to increase the BBC's influence as a soft power, they should increase government support. In fact, the government should pay for it full stop. Why is the British householder, you people out there, I'm sure some of you watching this still pay it, maybe consider cancelling your TV licence. We'll talk about that at the end maybe. £169.50 a year to every household in the UK. They try and demand that you pay it. They try and make it seem like you have to pay it. And yet they're quite happy to spend over 80 million quid a year on a new EastEnders set when they already had a set. Even though ITV did a similar new set with Coronation Street, it only cost about 10 million, which is still a lot, obviously, but it's less, and they paid for it themselves, so they can do what they want. This new studio they're building in Birmingham in the tea factory, it's going to be tens of millions of quid. For what reason? For what reason? Are your studios in one of the most expensive parts of London not enough for you now, BBC? Maybe consider a trading estate in some low-rent place or something, rather than trying to do all this flash bloody stuff. And then 300 million quid a year coming out. How many TV licence fees is that? Hold on. 300, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, divided by 159. There's a pretty big number, isn't it? 1,886,792 households. 1 million households. I don't know how many households are in the average city, but that sounds like a fair-sized city to me. 1 million, well, nearly 2 million households. That's a pretty big city, right? Required to pay their TV licence fee to keep the world service broadcasting in 40 languages. So I speak to people every day who defend the licence fee. And if you like the BBC, you like paying for the BBC, good for you, crack on and pay the BBC. It's okay. My problem with it is people are struggling at the minute. It's a bill you don't need to pay. The money only goes to the BBC, but you have to pay it in order to watch other channels. But they're so wasteful with it. They're cutting back hours and hours of television. They're changing everything. They're making everything worse, including local radio. But then they're quite happy to spend that amount of money to broadcast the government's soft power around the world in 40 languages. I think it's absolutely crazy. If you still pay it, do consider it. I mean, the myth is still out there, and it's still perpetrated, especially by the BBC, that if you own a television, you must pay the licence fee. This is not true. I haven't paid it for about 10 years now. Am I in prison? Am I in court? Have I had loads of fines? No. And just behind you there is a telly on the wall that I was watching literally 5 minutes ago. You only need to pay it if you watch or record anything as it's been broadcast or access BBC iPlayer. The only things you're going to miss out on by not paying it is some BBC stuff. That's it. You're going to be able to watch everything else. You want to watch Coronation Street. Just after it's been broadcast, you'll find it on ITVX. So you can go on there and stream it if your internet's good enough, obviously. Same with Channel 4, same with Channel 5. Sky stuff you can stream just by switching to Now TV, which is cheaper than Sky, and then you can stream stuff on demand. And once you switch to watching stuff on demand, it's so free. You go wait till Thursday at 8 or whatever for your favourite show to come on. It's nice just being able to watch whatever you want to watch, whenever you want to watch it. And you're £169.50 a year up, which isn't a lot of money to a lot of people, but it's the principle of the matter. I could afford to pay it, but it's the principle of the matter that I think is ridiculous. What do you think about this? It's the waste. That's the worst part of it. The court cases and everything are bad. They are really bad. But the waste is just disrespectful to the people who do pay it. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching. Hit all the buttons and everything while you're down there, leaving your comment, because if you do that, with any luck, I'll see you in another video again soon, won't I? Ta-da.